Hello everyone. We're going to talk about writing linear equations today. I hope you are all doing well, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple weeks. But yeah, writing linear equations is a huge part of Algebra 1 that sometimes people forget. So I want to make sure that we have a little bit of a background for it before we get too far. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to actually talk about two different forms of linear equations. The first form is slope-intercept form, and that's the one that you probably remember the best from Algebra 1, um, mostly because you spent the most time on it. And this is probably the one that most of you will be most comfortable with. That's the one that y equals mx plus b. The point slope form I'll talk about in a little bit, but let's practice the slope-intercept form first. Um, a lot of times he'll give you 2 points for a line, in which case you can just jump straight into the slope formula. Um, it, Today, this example, they don't. They give you a picture instead, but you just look at it and you say, wow, it looks like I have the point 0, -3, and it looks like I have the point 1, 0. So you make your own points up. And this is the intercept, but that's just coincidence. You pick any points that look convenient. If you happen to see the point 2, 3, you could use that point. If you saw the point -1, -6, you could use that one. Anything that looks easy to see on a line is what you want to select. So I have these 2 points. The first thing that we want to do is we want to find the slope. All right, you always want to find the slope first. Find slope. All right, and we do have that wonderful equation from Algebra 1. That's y2 minus y1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You can also think of it as rise over run, which we talked about the other day. And rise over run is a very good way of thinking of slope. If we use the slope formula, we can say, okay, it doesn't really matter which one you call 2 and 1. I'll just say y2 is 0 and y1 is -3. So y0 minus -3 over x2 is 1 minus x1 is -3, or sorry, 0. 0. So if we did that, we'd have plus a positive there, of course, so we'd have 3 over 1, which is just 3. Then we have to find b if we're going to do the slope-intercept. So if we're going to use a slope-intercept, then we'd say, okay, well, we have y equals mx plus b, and we know m now, and we just pick one of those other points. Pick one of those points. It doesn't matter which one. Let's say we picked this one. And you'd substitute everything in. So for y, if I'm picking this point, there's my y value. So I'd put -3 in for y. Slope we just found out was 3. So we're going to substitute that in for m. The x, well, this is the x here. We could put 0 in for x, and then we can solve for b. And this would just be -3 equals 0 plus b, or b equals -3. That did not work. All right, there we go. So we have our slope, we have our y-intercept. We can rewrite our equation now. You don't have to write y equals mx plus b again if you don't want to, but you can if you do want to. And if you do that, we'd say, okay, y, we leave that variable there, equals, we substitute 3 in for the m, x is still a variable, and then substitute -3 in for b. I'm just going to leave it as a -3. You can do plus -3 if you prefer. And there would be the equation of your line. Now, if you're really observant, you could have actually skipped most of part 2 in this case, but only in this case. Because if I look at the line, I'm like, oh, of course b is -3. That's where it touches, the line touches the x, or the y-axis, which is our y-intercept. So if you can see that, that's fine. And also, some people, instead of actually using the slope formula with the pictures, but only with the pictures, they'll say, oh, I'm going to go up 3 and over 1. Okay, so the slope is 3 over 1. So some people are really good at counting the slope. Now, the point slope formula, I want to show you that before I go on. And I'm not going to emphasize this because I know some people aren't as comfortable with it or aren't as familiar with it. The point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m quantity x minus x1. And I'm just going to show it to you on this problem. And if you like it, feel free to use it because it's very slick, very slick. Um, so if I look, let me just bring that down so you can see it here. If I use this equation, this formula for the slope, or point slope form, I can actually have the exact same equation come out a different way. I still need to go through step 1, and I still need to find that slope. But now I would have y minus, and if I pick the same point, I would have minus negative 3 from here equals m, we know is 3 from there, and then quantity x minus, and then we know from our point again that we're using 0 for x1. And that's the point slope form of the line. It's the exact same equation, just it looks different. Of course, we know this would be, you could stop there, by the way. Well, you can stop at y plus 3 equals 3 quantity x minus 0, or you could just say y plus 3 equals 3x. I'm going to just show you that these are the same equation very quickly. If I just solve for y, I have y plus 3 equals 3x if I distribute, and then I could subtract the 3, and I'd get y equals 3x minus 3. So some people actually prefer this method over here because you can look at it immediately and say, oh, I know that it goes to the point 3, 0, or sorry, negative 3, 0, because it's going to be the opposite of this number and opposite of that number. Some people like it, some people don't. If you decide you like that form, that's fine. I'm going to focus on the point slope form because I think that's what you're going to be more familiar, or the slope intercept form, because I think that's what you're going to be more familiar with. So let's try it. Now this is just as easy. I again have 2 steps. I have to find the slope. Oh, they give me the slope. It says write an equation of a line that passes through the point negative 3, 4 and has a slope of 2/3. So automatically I'm like, oh, step 1, slope equals 2/3. Got it. All right, step 2, I need to find b. So I'm going to write y equals mx plus b, and we're going to substitute that negative 3 in for the x, the 4 in for the y. So 4 would equal 2/3. This is weird that it's writing in 2 colors. Times negative 3. Oh, there it changed. Plus b, and we solve for b. That's just substitution. That's all we did there. So if we solve, we have 4 equals 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So negative 2 plus b. And of course, add your 2 over. And b is equal to 6. Now we know m, we know b, we write our equation. Y equals, m is 2/3. Why is it doing that? Let's try it again. Y equals 2/3 for the m, x, and then plus 6 for the b. And that would be our equation in slope-intercept form. So then the next challenge is going to be what happens if we have an equation of a line that passes through 2 points. We don't have a picture, aren't given the slope. It's not any different. Not any different at all. So we remember from the other day, m equals, we have to find slope first, We know our rise over our run, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Why is it doing that to me? Alright, minus y. You guys are probably laughing at me. Try it slower. Minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, okay, I'm sick of erasing now. I'll do it one more time. There we go. Alright, so if we look at y2, I'm just going to say this is y2 here. You could it doesn't actually matter the order of the points. It really doesn't. I could just list them in the other order and it wouldn't make any difference. So y2 is 2, y1 is 5, x2 is 4, x1 is 1, so I'd have 2 minus 5 is negative 3, 4 minus 1 is 3, that would be negative 1. So m is negative 1. And then again, you just pick whichever point you want. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to pick that. Couldn't care less what point you pick though. So step 2, we're going to find b. So I'm going to write my slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And let's start substituting. So if I picked that point, I would put 5 in for y. I would put the negative 1 in for m. I would put 1 in for x. And we'd have b there. And if I continue, obviously 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And then add the 1 over. So b is equal to 6. All right, we know m, we know b. Let's write our equation. Y, that's messy. Y equals m is negative 1, x plus b is 6. And there would be our equation. Of course, you would start at 6 and then count down 1 to the right one for your 1. All right, go ahead and have at it. Good luck on the assignment. Look forward to seeing you in another couple weeks.